us?
Well, every cop in Gotham is behind him. I'm guessing he has great leadership skills.
Hey guys, so this is another Gotham video and the discussion of the back half of Season 4. So first off, I gotta say, I'm very glad the front half of Season 4 ended the way it ended, because that's pretty much what I predicted a couple of months ago. Now I know a lot of people were like, okay, Penguin is so smart, he's just gonna figure out what Sophia Falcone is doing, which he did do. The part I didn't really agree with when it came to other fans of the show is that Penguin was gonna overpower Sophia. The major problem I had with such a prediction is you don't just introduce a character like Sophia Falcone into the world of Gotham and have her pretty much overpowered over the first war or the first battle. But that is pretty much because Sophia Falcone isn't really the passing villain in the comics. I mean, she's not as big as other villains, but nonetheless, she is a big villain. She's pretty much Carmine Falcone's right-hand woman throughout the Long Halloween comic book arc. She's also the Hangman post his death. She's pretty much major villain material, and all that we have seen throughout the front half of the season, I think is just the tip of the iceberg. But what about the back half of the season? What about what Sophia Falcone is gonna be like? What everyone pretty much is gonna be like? Now throughout this video, I'm gonna be discussing my predictions and expectations for the back half of Season 4. I'm also going to be discussing the promo for episode 12, which I don't really think is just a promo for episode 12. I do think the content to set promo has events that are gonna span probably over the course of 2, maybe 3 episodes. It does as well seem to include a couple of Batman Year 1 Easter eggs, and that is basically kind of expected. We know the front half of the season is about the Long Halloween comic book arc, or the show's version of it. We do know as well that the back half of the season is about the show's version of the Batman Year 1 arc. And both arcs in the comics are really rich. I actually enjoyed reading them years ago, and then I enjoyed reading them once again right before Season 4 aired. Now do forgive me, I might sound a little bit weird, my nose is kind of blocked. That's usually me throughout the winter, or most of the winter that is. But in all cases, I'm trying my best to sound as clear as possible throughout the runtime of this video. So let's just get started with the promo of episode 12 of Season 4.
Sometimes we're looking for things we don't want to find.
If I go down, so will you.
You still think you know what I will and won't do?
I'll be coming for you, bitch!
Make me laugh.
I will not!
That is so Gotham.
You have no idea what's really going on, billionaire boy. Ivy, I'm going to make miracles happen.
Now we're talking!
Gotham returns with new episodes this spring.
Thank you for waiting!
We're gonna have so much fun together.
So one thing that is extremely easy to predict, and without watching this promo, and just by knowing that this is gonna be a Year 1 arc, is that Bruce Wayne is gonna get over that annoying rebellious teenage phase. After all, the comic book Year 1 arc is about Bruce Wayne returning back to Gotham after 12 years of absence and training to become Batman. Now based on how the front half of the season ended, we're pretty much expecting Barbara and the rest of the Gotham City Sirens are gonna be working with Sophia Falcone. And based on that, I'm kinda thinking that conversation she's having with Jim Gordon on the second scene of this promo is all about Lee Tompkins. So that scene might basically have to do with the other scene we see on this promo with Lee and Sophia. Or it might have something to do with the fact that Barbara knows where Lee is, that she's met Lee on the front half of the season. But speaking of the Batman Year 1 Easter eggs, Sophia Falcone is gonna be sort of the Sarah Essen of this arc. So his relationship with her over the course of the front half and the back half of the season makes her sort of the mistake in Jim Gordon's life. Now Gotham has introduced Sarah Essen as the captain of the GCPD early on in the events of the show, and that was completely different than what she is on the Batman Year 1 arc, because basically over there she was an underling rather than a superior officer. But on the pages of the Year 1 arc and during the pregnancy of his wife Barbara, Jim Gordon ended up having an affair with this underling, with Sarah Essen. And the thing about that is, it almost cost him a lot professionally as well. Pretty much, once the corrupt Commissioner Loeb found out about his affair with Essen, he used it as leverage. And it is pretty much a similar situation to what we have going on between Jim and Sophia, In this case though, Sophia Falcone is actually both the leverage and the one using the leverage against Jim Gordon. And that kind of makes her both the Commissioner Loeb and the Sarah Essen of the upcoming Year 1 arc. Now the fact that Sophia Falcone seems to be making enemies over the back half of the season with Lee Tompkins is gonna be completely entertaining. So Sophia Falcone might have overpowered Penguin against the expectations and predictions of some fans, but I think she's gonna be digging herself a big hole over the course of the back half of the season. The thing is, when she makes enemies with Lee, she's not just making enemies with her or even with Jim Gordon. She's probably gonna be making enemies with Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler as well. And while I do think the back half of the season is gonna be the downfall of Sophia Falcone, I do kind of expect if that doesn't happen, this at least is gonna be weakening her by a whole lot. But moving on, Jerome is officially the Joker in Gotham. Now I have read articles and I've seen videos that indicate that he's not the Joker. However though, the reason I didn't include such material or discuss such topic on previous videos is that I did not feel the confirmation in everything that I've read. I didn't feel it was confirmatory enough. But anyway, and it's clearly indicated by this promo, he's gonna be making enemies with Penguin. But it is kinda clear from the final scene of the promo that this animosity is not gonna be lasting for long. They are most definitely gonna be working together and probably on escaping from Arkham. But you have no idea what's going on, Billionaire Boy. So for the second time, they've switched the actress portraying the character of Poison Ivy on Gotham, and I've talked about that a few weeks ago in one of my videos. So the last time we got to see Maggie Gee as Poison Ivy, she was drinking that potion before she got transformed into something completely different, and that transformation kind of included the change to facial features. And here's the product, Peyton List.
No! 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 You must stop!
Now I'm not a big fan of how they decided to change the actress. However, Peyton List is pretty good at portraying these kind of roles. She's basically Lisa Snart, aka Golden Glider on The Flash, and Kara Coburn on The Tomorrow People. And I'm thinking she's gonna be able to portray a really good full-on Poison Ivy on Gotham. Now when I use the phrase full-on Poison Ivy, I mean full-on comic book Poison Ivy. Cause when she makes her return into the lives of the people of Gotham, she's gonna be having powers. So I know I did state early on that the second half of the season is gonna be based on the Year 1 comic book arc. However though, that does not necessarily mean that we're not gonna be getting some long Halloween Easter eggs, just like we got some Year 1 Easter eggs during the first half of the season. And that kiss that Ivy gives Bruce is basically one of those Easter eggs. At some point down the road during the events of the Long Halloween, she actually takes control of Bruce Wayne in favor of Carmine Falcone. So during that arc, there was a pending deal between Gotham City Bank and Carmine Falcone, and Bruce Wayne being on the board of directors of the bank was the only thing that is stopping that from happening. To get out of that situation, Carmine Falcone basically enlisted the services of Pamela Eiley, aka Poison Ivy, and Eiley in return took control of Bruce Wayne by getting herself into a relationship with him and using her powers, and Bruce ended up approving a said deal. Now I'm not really sure if they're gonna do this whole thing in Gotham, like Poison Ivy basically using her powers on Bruce Wayne, but given she's clearly gonna be part of his life at one point or the other down the road on the show, that's probably bound to happen. Now if that were to be the case though, I think her hold over Bruce Wayne is gonna be broken in the same way that it happened in the comics. So I'm kind of expecting that Catwoman is gonna get in the middle of all of this and kick some ass. But anyway, we're gonna be seeing as well Ra's al Ghul once again, probably in visions of Bruce Wayne. I'm assuming as well that Bruce Wayne over the rest of the season is gonna be getting some additional training, so by the end of the season I can imagine him going full on Batman. But all of that was just trailer talk, be it Easter eggs or expectations based on the trailer. So let's now talk some of my personal expectations and predictions for the back half of Season 4. So when it comes to Jim Gordon, Sophia has made it a point over the course of the first half of the season to show him in some sort of a darker light. And yes, he does have some personal stake in it, and he does do a lot of it for personal glory, but that does not really change the fact that he is inherently good. So just like he did come clean to Barbara about his affair with Sarah Essen over the course of the comic book Year 1 arc, I'm thinking here he's gonna be doing the same with the GCPD over his affair and deal with Sophia. But when it comes to Jim Gordon and the Year 1 arc, there is this other major aspect to his story. The Year 1 arc, and as I mentioned before, is basically about Bruce Wayne coming back to Gotham and becoming Batman. And slightly before his return to Gotham, Jim Gordon actually arrives for the very first time in his life to the city. So at this point in their lives, there is no real relationship between them. They're not that tight-knit. And because of that, over the course of this arc, Jim Gordon goes out of his way trying to uncover who's under the mask and the cowl of Batman. And that's exactly what's gonna happen over the course of the back half of the season. Now, I cannot really claim this as a prediction of mine, because that has been confirmed over the course of San Diego Comic-Con. But what I sort of can predict here is that one thing is going to happen differently than in the comics. I'm guessing that Jim Gordon is basically gonna figure out who's behind the mask of Batman, and there's gonna be some sort of a confrontation there. Now, in order for such a prediction to make sense, you gotta keep in mind that there's a major difference between the Batman-Jim Gordon relationship in the comics and the Batman-Jim Gordon relationship on the series. Jim Gordon never really knew Bruce Wayne as a child, so that kind of relationship that has been building up and brewing over the course of the past 3 seasons, it was not really there in the comics. But more on Jim Gordon, we should expect that he will find out that Lee is still in Gotham or has come back to Gotham. I think this one though is kinda predictable from the promo. Once Sophia Falcone puts Lee Tompkins in a terrible situation, we're pretty sure Jim Gordon is gonna be coming to the rescue. But moving away from Jim Gordon and onto Solomon Grundy, the last time we saw him, he was remembering things.
What the hell happened to me?
Now, this remembering things trope is some sort of a rare occurrence in the comics. It only did happen with certain reincarnations of his character, so what's going on there is not really out of the realm of comic books. However though, one other thing about Solomon Grundy is he was killed a lot, and every time he dies he comes back stronger, and in some cases he actually comes back smarter. So what I'm thinking here is this whole arc with him remembering things about himself and about Tabby, it's gonna play out to the very end. But right after this arc is milked for all it's worth, he's probably gonna end up dead, and he's gonna be reincarnated. I know a lot of fans kinda complain about that sort of arc, someone dies and then they come back to life. Well, that's Solomon Grundy for you. Now, while I was discussing the trailer earlier, I kinda covered Sophia Falcone, Penguin and Jerome, Bruce Wayne, Poison Ivy, and Lee Tompkins. As for Nigma, I think he's gonna end up going back to being the Riddler before this season comes to an end. But even then, I do think he's gonna keep the strong friendship that he's built with Lee over the course of the first half of the season. But finally though, we've got Barbara Keene and Alfred Pennyworth. Now, these two kinda share one thing in common. They've both been subjected to the Lazarus Pit. And so what I'm kind of thinking here is the effects of the Lazarus Pit are going to show up on the second half of the season. In fact, there is a good chance that Alfred losing it on the fall finale while fighting with Bruce might have been part of these side effects. But that's not really all when it comes to Barbara. Barbara Keene's character has a lot going on for her. The Lazarus Pit was one, but the other one is all about the looming question of what the hell did Ra's al Ghul pass on to her when she visited him in jail. Now, a lot of fans are thinking he probably passed on some sort of superpowers to her. But the thing is, I do not really think it is that, because Ra's al Ghul himself does not really have any superpowers, besides his superhuman strength and his superhuman endurance, but those are not really abilities. So there's a good chance what he really transferred to her was his knowledge, and it's all sinking in still, like she's gonna end up becoming some sort of head of the Demoness. Now, I don't know why I keep getting this feeling when it comes to Barbara and Jim, but their scenes in general are some of my favorites in Gotham. But speaking of that feeling, I always get the feeling that at some point he's gonna be tempted to ignore it all and get back into a relationship with her. But I could as well see Barb at some point possibly getting redeemed and ending up with Jim, being the Barbara from the comics. But that Barbara-Jim thought, however, brings this video to an end. So let me know in the comments what your very own personal expectations and predictions for the return of Gotham Season 4 are like. Do tell me as well what you think is going to be happening with Barbara, what you think Ra's al Ghul passed on to her. Let me know as well if you liked this video by dropping it a much appreciated like, and while you're at it, you can always subscribe and enable notifications for my future videos. But until I see you next time, thank you all for tuning in and have a good one.